Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm Christopher Whitt, and I will just start by talking a little bit about myself. I am an electrical engineer, and now I work as a project manager in Ocean Acoustics Company. It's a small niche. We do specialized measurements in the ocean. But aside from my day job, I'm also a volunteer. I'm a musician. I like ultimate frisbee, and I love to travel, and I like animals. So it's just to give you a bit of an idea of myself. But my job at JASCO involves measuring all kinds of natural and man-made sounds in the ocean. JASCO is a very small, well, I think of it as a very small company. I suppose it might be a medium-sized company now, but it's a consulting company that works in a very specialized field. So I get the opportunity to do a lot of interesting projects, challenging projects in different parts of the world. And there's a lot of variety in my job. I started out with JASCO about 15 years ago, and at the start of my employment with JASCO, we were doing a very specific type of measurement in the Arctic, and it was a really neat thing for me as a young engineer to be challenged to learn something new, to design moorings, to take care of logistics, to get equipment to the field, to get the measurement done, and to start the analysis process. Over the years, I've been involved with doing our equipment design and then manufacturing and data collection in the field, doing automated analysis of the resulting data sets. And in the recent years, I've started to do more training and mentoring and project management. So over that time, I've learned some of my strengths, and I think that two strengths that I like to keep in mind are I like to be able to see a big picture. When I'm presented with a complicated problem, a complicated situation, I want to abstract what's really important, what the central themes are, and see how everything fits together, and use that to help solve the problems. But I've also always been keen to mentor people and help the people around me succeed, to teach people. So I've tried to paint a positive picture of where I am now, but the path that got me here, it was not a straight line at all. So in undergrad, I was a very academically minded student. I really liked school and I did well. I was pretty focused on it, but then I decided to continue to do a master's degree, and I chose my own topic, and it was a bit too ambitious. I chose a topic where I didn't really know what my outcome was going to be, and that's maybe sometimes a good challenge to take on, but I didn't do very well with it, and so I kind of almost burned out on that. So after I did complete my master's, I took a few years to work in an unrelated field. I did some sound and lighting production for music concerts and that sort of thing. And that was a nice break, and it maybe did connect to some of my interest in acoustics and to some of my interest with electronics, but it was really quite different. And then to get back into something more academic, I took a job teaching in a technical college, and that was overseas. That was in the Middle East. So that was a really nice challenge that got me some different life experience, got me exposed to different cultures. It fit in with my existing interest in travel. But then when it was time to come back home, I just kind of accidentally fell into the job at JASCO. There was a job posting. I don't even remember how I came across it. And I didn't really have the qualifications they were looking for, but I had enough relevant background, I guess, and convinced the owners in the interview that I was a suitable candidate. And then I've been at JASCO for 15 years. What have I learned in that time? Well, the main thing I've learned is that I haven't really figured it out, and there was no path that I had laid out ahead of me at the start to get where I am now, even though where I am now is a place I'm very happy with. But it's been important to know myself, and again, I didn't know at 15 years ago or 20 years ago what I know now, but I did know some things about myself, and that's helped guide me along the way, and I've learned more, and that's helped me to make better decisions. I'll echo one thing that's already been said, which is the value of a network. And this one I really wish I'd learned much, much earlier. I thought in the start of my career that I was going to succeed and I was going to rocket to the top with really good technical skills and a great work ethic and that sort of thing. And I've really come to realize that the people that you know, the connections you make, the relationships you have with your colleagues, with your peers in other companies and other organizations, that is at least as valuable as your technical ability or your work ethic. We did think a little bit about some questions like work-life balance. We were asked to think about this, and I again, just like the career path, I haven't got that figured out. But what I've learned, I'm actually going through a very busy time right now at work, and the thing that's been very clear to me is nobody's going to be responsible for my work-life balance except me. I'm a small company. There's lots of variety of work and maybe a little more personal connection with the company management and company owners, and maybe that's not the same as in a large company. But I think in any work environment I've heard about, the company's really only going to be responsible for meeting the contractual obligations, getting their job done, even if they do care about their employees. And I feel like my employer does care about us very well, but at the end of the day, they are not going to be responsible for my happiness outside of work. Career advancement, boy, it's been something I've struggled with. Again, I started out thinking that my excellent technical skills were going to be the key to success. But what's really worked for me has been to I guess I didn't really put it on the bullet points on the slide here, but it's to build those connections, that network. And for me, it started out with that mentoring thing that I mentioned earlier. I would see the big picture in the little corner of the company I was in. I would see the gaps that need to be filled, and I would work on them. But then at the same time, I'd be thinking of, okay, somebody else needs to do this after me. So I would train someone else to do what I was doing. And as long as I keep doing that, then my employer knows that I'm valuable because I'm always going to be busy doing something productive and leave behind me an area that's now filled, that's now solid. And so I can't identify a lot of mentors that I've had along the way, but I'm learning the hard way that the mentor-mentee relationship is really valuable. And so that's something I'm now seeking out a bit more. And I mentioned performance reviews within, specifically when I'm looking for like salary negotiations, and I've been in one company for a long time. So some people will say the way to get a salary increase is to change jobs, and that may very well be true. But for me, I've been fairly happy with my job. So when I look for my total compensation package, I think about it from the perspective of my employer. What is it I'm doing well? What do you need me to do better? And when I can say I'm meeting those things, then I have a case for the compensation that I think I deserve. And how do I deal with change? Again, similar themes to what's already been mentioned. I've looked at times in my career where I start to feel a little bit bored or maybe a bit dissatisfied, and that is the flag for me to start identifying, okay, what's a gap in, maybe not in my satisfaction, maybe a gap in my work responsibilities or a gap in my skills that I have, and start to develop those new skills. And so the move into project management came from a period like that where I had sort of plateaued in the responsibilities I was in, and I was looking for something different and wanted to develop the skills to manage and to lead. And actually, I didn't think about this when I was making my slides, but one of the ways that I developed those skills was through volunteering. I did mention at the beginning volunteering. So I started volunteering for organizations outside of work, and that gave me the opportunity to understand some of the aspects of working with people, developing a network, leading teams, teaching people, and that brought together a lot of the interests and the abilities that I think that I was already developing. Another thing that often comes up is how to deal with job interviews, and I've gone to a total of 2 job interviews in my life, so I'm not very good at speaking from the perspective of the interviewee. But now that I'm in a more of a management role, I start to participate in interviews from the other side, and it's been interesting to see the variety of experience that people have. What I would say to myself, my future self, if I interview for another job, is make sure I know the opportunity that I'm applying for. It's amazing how many people go into an interview and don't really understand the company that's posting the position or the type of job that they're applying for. And then I would suggest try to switch perspectives. Think what it is the employer is looking for. I was in an interview at one point where the job was clearly about a repetitive task. It was something that you had to be able to do routinely and correctly a lot. And when the person was asked what their weaknesses were, they said, "Oh, well, I like variety. I don't really like routine work." Well, that's not really knowing the what the employer was looking for. But on the flip side, turn your weakness into strength is a really good interview technique. And you're going to be asked a hard question in an interview. You're going to be asked, what is your weakness? And I was in another interview where the person said, well, I took a job where I had a hard time integrating into the team, into the community. And so I took some coaching. Got some sought outside advice. I improved myself, and that gave me the skills to build a good relationship and develop the team, build a solid team in that job. So I think there was some really interesting learnings to be able to switch around and see the interview from the perspective of the employer. So I think those were all the things I had to say, and I'll turn it over back to Randy.